Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alternative Jargon, episode number 48. Welcome back. This week was supposed to be a guest episode, but I had some difficulties in that regard. I'm not going to go into too many details, but the next guest is still all lined up, still going to be a guest. Just ran into some issues this past weekend in getting that all figured out. But, we run a really big operation around here, really tight operation, and we like to keep things as airtight and seamless as we possibly can over at Alternative Jargon HQ. Unfortunately, this one did slip through our fingers, but we are going to get the guest on the show. Believe me, before too long. Since this fell through, this was like my easy week. Supposed to be my easy week. It was supposed to be you sit down with a guest and you talk about nonsense for an hour and you don't really have to plan for anything. Unfortunately, it fell through and now I have to sit here and plan. I don't have to do anything, actually. I do have free will, but I'm going to do it because it's what I do, I guess. The show must go on, Since I have no lesson plans for you today, I think I might just throw on a documentary and then you guys can fill out like a little word search. Maybe the Magic School Bus, maybe something about World War II. It really could be anything. But I will have a little fill in the blank worksheet for you to follow along with. And if you miss one of the questions, I'm not going to rewind, just get it from a partner. So in all seriousness, though, the camera is I'm not centered up here and it's really bugging me. And I do have, hello there. I do have insane OCD about that. Hold on. Where's the chair? I got to recenter the chair here. It does really drive me nuts. There you go. Can you read the Rite Aid number on my bag there and break the HIPAA laws? Maybe you can. That's a lot better. That is a lot better. Disney is in the news this week because there was a court filing against Disney because some guy from New York went down to Disney Springs, which is in Florida, and he has food allergies. He is allergic. I forget what it said he's allergic to. But essentially, they went to this restaurant, I forget the name of it, in Disney Springs. They said, no, we don't have any of that bad allergy stuff that you have. You will be safe, we promise. It's all good. So they indulged in a nice meal at this restaurant. And an hour later, the guy was dead because of anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis, if you didn't know, is like the worst, most severe form of an allergic reaction that will kill you. And apparently this guy even used an EpiPen and unfortunately still did die. Very sad story, honestly. But here's the funny part about this, is that Disney saw this court document that they were suing because why wouldn't you sue? You just said, this won't kill you. And then they killed him. But the funniest, crazy part about this is that Disney tried to get this case dismissed because the guy who died signed up for Disney Plus. And I guess there's something in the fine print of Disney Plus, besides guaranteeing you that you will watch crappy shows with high budgets. There's something else in the fine print that says that something along the lines of, if you die at our hands, we're safe from court trials. I don't know what the fine print is, and like I said, we run a tight ship around here, but not tight enough for me to go read a bunch of fine print on DisneyPlus.com. Either way, this is a terrible look for Disney. Disney is an awful company. I hate Disney. It's overrated. My style, I always feel bad because my style of rambling does very much is inspired by Tim Dillon. And I'm always bringing him up on this show. But, Tim Dillon's famous podcast episode, Bomb Disney World. It's a classic. he makes the point, if you're over the age of 10 and you still have some type of fantasy about going to Disney World or some type of fixation on something you enjoyed when you were an infant, then you might have some serious issues. I'm not saying I will never step foot in Disney World again. Maybe someday if I have kids or something, but there is definitely a cult surrounded by it. And then Disney goes and does stuff like this, where they are trying to save some money on paying out a court fee because some guy was on a 1-month trial of their streaming service who died at a restaurant. Completely unrelated. But this is just how corporate America works. Disney is just another name among those companies. No, I know that you loved, the princesses when you were little. I know that Splash Mountain might be your favorite, but Disney lost that true, innocence a long time ago. Disney is just another corporation now, and you might be able to argue that it always was. Just dumb stuff like they Photoshop all of the cigarettes out of Walt Disney's fingers in every picture because the dude was smoking like 5,000 cigarettes a minute. I understand you don't want kids to see a guy smoke, but there's just a creepy thing about Disney where they try to erase parts of history, and it's always felt like a really deep cover-up of something at Disney. And I'm not putting on my tinfoil hat. I'm not saying that they're smuggling children through the swamps in the Everglades or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's a company who, from my perspective, just they have to always appear to be perfect. And whoever was in charge of trying to get this case dismissed will probably be shot in the head by someone else at Disney because this is just not a good look for them. They really just want to stick to things like dropping a new CGI Marvel movie. Butchering another franchise, finding another franchise they can buy and then butcher. Those are the things they want to keep their consumers focused on, not trying to avoid paying out a settlement because you freaking killed somebody. Just not a good look for them. Not a good look for them at all. And poor guy, he just wanted to go have breakfast with Cinderella the next morning or something. And unfortunately, he will not get to experience that. I don't know if I can do ASMR with a sip of coffee. It's not as satisfying as, cracking a new can of seltzer. So I think I'm just going to move the phone away. You guys don't want to hear me gulp this. Some people are really weird about chewing noises. Some people are really weird about gulping noises. It is weird that we're all just walking around with breath and we're breathing it everywhere. Somebody's breath might smell like mint. The other person's breath might smell like coffee, like I just am drinking now. And we're just putting our freaking gases out there, It is weird, and sometimes I do feel a little bit disgusted that I'm just an animal with animal stuff, Now I sound like a Columbine shooter, in all their in all their journals, they try to say that they are, above human because they beat Doom on the hardest difficulty or something stupid. But yeah, it is weird to me to think, though, that you're in an indoor place with people and they're all just putting their breath out there, Do I really want to share breath with all these people? It's just weird. We take a lot of things for granted. Like the fact that we are just a bunch of meat bags, walking around. It's weird. I don't really like to think about that. But anyway, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. I've been reading a lot recently. And my one buddy, we are friends on Goodreads, and he jokingly called me out the other day He thinks that I am faking my Goodreads logs because I read Moby Dick in a decent span of time. I was pretty invested in it, and I try to read, anytime I have a spare moment, you can get a couple pages in, and that's really how it all adds up. But nonetheless, he was joking with me about how he thinks I'm faking it because, Moby Dick, for many people, probably not the most fun book to read, probably not the most engaging for many audiences, but I did find it good. And I did read every single page. I'm a person who I'm always going to respect media. I know certain people who will be watching a movie or a TV show, and if there's a scene that's really intense or really stressful, they will skip through the scene to get to the part where things are back to normal, They will skip the climax to get to the falling action. They will skip a scene that's stressful, even if it adds to the plot. I'm not talking about the people who skip Happy Birthday, Mr. President in Breaking Bad. I completely understand that one because, we all know that Mrs. White is going to go hang out with her boss, It doesn't add that much to the plot, but I'm talking about major plot points in a book or a movie people will completely skip over because it's a little bit stressful, and that to me is crazy. You should always respect the media you're interacting with, even if it is something that you're not interested in, even if you are hate watching it, even if you are very critical of it, because somebody put a lot of time and effort, blood, sweat, tears, possibly mucus into that production just for you to skip through it. And I believe to be critical of something or to enjoy something, it's best to understand all its bits and pieces. So skipping through stuff really does bother me. Also, like looking at your phone while you're watching a movie, stuff like that really bothers me. I could be watching a movie with somebody and I'm focused on the screen because, that's just how I am. And then they'll glance at their phone it could literally be 10 seconds. They'll reply to a text. And they could have missed either a piece of dialogue, and if not that, literally in a movie, things can happen with just a camera shot. You could say 1,000 words with one camera shot, and if they miss that camera shot, they might still understand where the story's going, but that's an art form they just missed. So yeah. But anyway, this thought about potentially faking logging books on Goodreads or logging movies on Letterboxd made me think about, why people read. For many, it's just another form of entertainment. Definitely, I can say that's true for me. For some people, it's a vessel to get off. There are whole sides of TikTok where, there's not even an introduction. You'll just be scrolling and a video will pop up. Top 10 smuttiest books on the TikTok shop. There's definitely, that is a segment of the market, of the book market, 100%. But, everyone reads for a different reason. I've been reading a lot of classics and history books, and that's because I like to be entertained, but also gain new knowledge of things. And I also have consumed so much media, not really, but I try to, be well-read and understand things. The English language is, whenever you think about our most common phrases and the way that we get points across, whether it's you talking to your friend or a politician giving a speech, it could literally be anything. The amount of references to other things in our language is crazy. I know people always say, where would our language be without baseball? There is so much baseball terminology and jargon used throughout everyday life as an English-speaking person in the United States. It's actually crazy, you don't have to hit a home run today, boys. Just play it safe. Yeah, man. I mean, I approached her at the bar, but I immediately struck out. what base did you guys get to? There's so many phrases. There's a lot of phrases. Same thing with sailing, boats. And me reading Moby Dick honestly opened my eyes to this one a little bit more than I did before, too. A lot of boat jargon out there. Lots of it. That ship has sailed, What's our charted course for this quarter, boss? A lot of stuff. And reading allows you to pick up on these things more and easier. And I do genuinely think, as corny as it sounds, I genuinely think reading books makes people more effective communicators. It introduces them to so many new words, so many new perspectives, that, it's like it helps you better understand the human condition, I think. And so that's definitely a big motivation for me to read, And I do think reading is the most productive form of content consumption, because it is just another form of entertainment and consumption at the end of the day. But it's the one that makes you use your brain the most by far. You can sit down and, watch a movie and be hitting the galaxy gas the whole time, and you're still going to get the point of the movie. You can, listen to a podcast while you are blackout drunk, and you're still going to laugh, at the jokes. But you can't sit down and read a book in the same way that you can do those things. You really have to immerse yourself in the media, which is one reason why I think I really enjoy it, because you do have to what's the word? I can't think of the word. You really have to blank yourself to the book. What is that word? Not sacrifice. No, that we're not killing a goat. What's the word? I don't know. But you know what I mean. You really have to give yourself up to the book and kind of lose yourself in it in a way that is not really something you have to do for other forms of media. It is the form of consumption that requires the most amount of, you can't resist yourself to the book. You have to just let it consume you. Now this is just sounding creepy, but you get what I mean. I can't articulate right now, which means I have to go read a book. Maybe if I read one more classic novel, I would have known the word I was looking for. But unfortunately, I did not. But yeah, it is fun to learn new words. My vocab, I haven't really said these out loud because I don't want to be bullied. But ever since reading Moby Dick, there are some words I now use in my head to myself, and I just can't get them out of my head because I think they're so funny. Moby Dick is written with a lot of Old English words, which surprises me because it's just from the 19th century. But I do think the author was going for sort of a, King James Version biblical type of prose and vocabulary in his book for whatever reason. The first one, I absolutely love this word, is hitherto. It's great. For example, I need a cup of coffee because I have been tired at work all day hitherto. It basically just means up until this point. But look at that word. It's amazing. Next one, sort of similar word here, but this one is a phrase. This one is absolutely phenomenal. And it is hither and thither. It basically means here and there. But come on, hither and thither? If you said that in a public setting, to be honest, you'd probably get a look of bewilderment from somebody. I don't think most people would even know what that means. But, for example, I want to take a trip this fall, but I don't know where to go. I guess I'll just drive hither and thither until I find something cool. God, if you pulled that out in a job interview, would you get hired, or would they immediately, write the note down? No freaking way. I feel like that's one that could really just push you one way or the other with no regard to anything. But yeah, pull out hither and thither and just see what happens. If your resume is just not looking great during those interviews and you really want to set yourself apart, come in there with some old English words. That's what I would do. Last one that came to mind after reading Moby Dick, and that is Thar She Blows. This one I've already been using for years, but this is such a good phrase. You can really use it in just about any context, and it's always going to be funny. Your friend loses something, and then you're looking for it with them, and you find it, and you say that. It really could be used for anything. Very versatile. But back to reading, though, I'm not going to lie. If Goodreads wasn't a thing, I wouldn't be as motivated to read. The dopamine rush you get when you're entering a new book as being read into Goodreads is pretty great. I don't know why anyone does drugs. They could just read a 1,000-page book over the course of a month and then enter it into Goodreads, and it's just as good. It's just as good of a high. One time I was actually in the middle of reviewing and marking a book as read on Goodreads, and I OD'd on dopamine. They found the laptop in my hands. They had to pry it away from my body, like the same way that they have to pull a needle out of a junkie's arm because they got so high and OD'd before they could even remove it. Same thing with Goodreads. It was, not a good situation. Just an overall dopamine rush. But yeah, Goodreads did actually reach out to me, though, and they said, if you try to sue, we're going to dismiss the court documents because we found out that you have a Goodreads Pro membership, so you submit to dying from using our service. Just kidding, Goodreads Pro does not exist, but yeah, it is a great feeling. It is a great feeling, and that sort of does make me think, like, would I even be reading if I couldn't log this? I love logging stuff. I do. It's definitely something I enjoy. It's very satisfying, because then you can go to your stats page on Goodreads and see how many pages you've done this year. Guys, I'm at 5,000. Stuff like that. I enjoy that stuff. What does that say about me? I don't really know. But my English teachers, I think, would still be so proud of me. I do really enjoy learning about new things. Recently, the book I read after Moby Dick was a European history book between 1900 and 1945. We all know about the 2 world wars in that time, but I kind of wanted to learn about what else was going on. And what I found out is that there was never, like, really any peace anywhere for that whole time in Europe. One war started, it sucked, millions died, and then pretty much by the time everything got rebuilt, they had another one. They ran it back. And it did make me realize how absolutely blessed we are to live in this time period in this country. Actually, some of my viewers are from Germany, so a bit ironic, but yeah, if I would not be able to do a dumb podcast like this where I can be critical of a government and critical of whatever I want to be critical of in that time period, pretty much no matter what country I was in. Everyone was having a revolution. Everyone was overthrowing everyone. Everyone was shooting people. Everyone was putting people into camps. There were no Squishmallows back then. The cheesy Gordita Crunch was not around. Everything was just harder back then. And I'm in no way saying that today everything's perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. People expect a perfect civilization out of creatures that are not perfect. There's no such thing as a utopia. It's not possible. But we definitely do have it easier today than the people did back then. If I tried to start alternative jargon in the 1920s in Russia, they'd throw me in a work labor camp, because I'm not a Bolshevik. Because my podcast is not state-sponsored Bolshevik propaganda. And this was every single country. Basically, any country that had any form of seizing power that wasn't just complete anarchy, it was all just screwed up. There was no peace. And people were so much more expendable back then. in the eyes of a dictator or whoever was running stuff. It was like, oh, we are losing 10,000 people a day in our labor camp, who, they're helping us supply the war efforts here. And they go, well, bring in 11,000 a day to replace them then. Everything was crazy. Everything was absolutely crazy. And if you were born during that time in one of those countries, there was like a 95% chance you were just going to die for some cause that would be forgotten in 20 minutes, And it's not fun. It wasn't a fun time. But, I do miss the way they dressed. It was pretty sweet. Everybody just looked cool back then. Everybody looked so proper. It was kind of backwards. Today, a lot of people look very improper, but our morals, I believe, now are much better than the people back then. And back then, they were all just batshit crazy, but dang, they looked dapper. Whew. Have you seen those SS uniforms? Oh my gosh, dude. Those are sick. It's too bad they were the ones wearing them, though. Yeah, unfortunate. Really unfortunate, But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It is what it is. Yeah, that will pretty much wrap up this week's episode. I apologize for the lack of guest. We are going to have a guest again soon. Also, I do have another comedy sketch idea in the works. I have the whole premise and sort of what I want it to be figured out. Now I just have to execute and figure out and iron out some of the more minute details. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Don't eat at Disney World. And if you have Disney Plus, cancel. See you next week. Goodbye.
We will leave you with I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
Write that down.